Hello, you lovely Hammers fans. It's Nick from Claret and Booze. Yeah, I'm on the Terraces channel on this one because John recorded a video earlier on, still very valid, because Potter is not off the table for West Ham yet, even though there's worrying rumours that he's been talking to, not rumours, it's been confirmed that he's been talking to Everton today because he took a 24-hour sabbatical from the West Ham negotiations. And there's rumours that Tottenham have entered the race as well. If you look anywhere on Everton's social media, Toffee TV, they're certain that they're going to get Potter. But we don't know. We don't know. He's got decisions to make. His family live down on the south coast. So John's video is very, very relevant. So we're leaving that running on the main channel. I'm going to talk about Fonseca and the complete mess that West Ham are in at the moment on here. Just try and make some sense of it. As always, look, if you're new to this channel, you know, the CB Terraces channel. This is only a backup channel, a spillover channel, which is how I'm using it today. And we'll be doing some other bits and pieces on it. But if you are new, please drop a like on the video, subscribe. It does really help us. All right, there will be bits and pieces on here as well. The main stuff will always be on the main channel. This is just nonsense, isn't it? This is a situation that you end up in when you do the complete opposite of what every fan has been calling out for since Prague. Most fans, anyway. You know, you need decisive action. We should have moved on after Prague. We didn't. We should have moved on midway through last season. We didn't. We just let we just ride shitstorms out, and we allow the rot to set in, and then we deal with it in the summer. We waste money. I mean, the rumour is now. I know you can't take it all as gospel, but I listened to Sean Whetstone on the More Than Just a Podcast, and he was rattling through the accounts for this year and the forecast for next year, and it ain't looking pretty. It's not. You know, we've got to stop wasting money. We've got to stop burning through money. We're not going to keep on getting away with it because PSR rules dictate that you can't run your club like we are, or you're going to end up like Everton have been for the past 5 years, 6 years. That's going to be the end result if you keep on running the club as poorly as you are now. But our main problem hasn't just been poor recruitment. The main problem is David Sullivan and his inability to act. His lack of instinct. He doesn't have any instincts. He doesn't. He just rides situations out, as I've already said, and he divers and he divers and he waits and he waits. I mean, look, just recently, you know, we had talks with Ruud van Nistelrooy before he went to Leicester. Look, Leicester may get relegated, but Ruud van Nistelrooy is a good manager in his own right. He would have been a breath of fresh air at West Ham. Just the personality, the person that he is, a much better squad. He would have been better suited to us. We missed out on that front. We miss out constantly. We miss out on players. We missed out on Duran. You know, we missed out on Amorim. We missed out on Slot because no Premier League experience. There's Carrick that the board are very interested. Anyone who's interested in football or knows about football on the board, apparently they're very keen on Carrick because they know what he would bring to the club. But Sullivan just isn't interested. We know now that, as I said earlier on, there's multiple managers that are still on the table because Fonseca was interviewed on Friday. That's just been clarified. He's the backup. He's not going to be happy now, according to X. He's going to say that as well as Potter has probably been incredibly pissed off and alarm bells have started to ring through the lack of action and lack of ambition of our board in the past 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because he agreed to come to us on a short-term deal some weeks ago, but we just held off. We held off. We've allowed the rot to set in and allowed more of the season to evaporate, allowed us to get into more of a mess to the point where you start to look desperate. You only act when you're desperate. There's nothing proactive about the way that we do anything. Now, the risk that we've got now is that Fonseca's going to go, hang on a minute. I had a chat with you on Friday. I thought I was your primary target. As X said, he could be really pissed off with that. So we might be in a situation where you've got two decent profiles of manager that now look at this job and go, I'm not too sure about that. You know, especially when you look at the way that this has been handled. Because what happened on Monday, there was a statement released. It was on KUMB. Apparently, what happened was there was an emergency board meeting called on Monday morning. And they all decided unanimously on Monday morning, following the hashtag boycott show on a Sunday night. It's nothing to do with that, but I'm going to keep saying it because it clearly pisses people off. Yeah, they all voted unanimously that Loppe had to go. Everyone voted. Somebody in that meeting went and leaked it immediately to TalkSport and the rest of the West Ham world because, as I said yesterday, I had tons of phone calls in the morning. Gonzo did a show on that and he said he's never known his phone to go haywire like it did yesterday. Somebody in that meeting leaked that information and it went haywire. So, yeah, the thought is that it would be Steidten. I'm starting to think it probably would be Steidten now. I don't think Sullivan would do that. Once he's made a decision. I don't think so. I know he likes to talk, but in that scenario there, where he's basically waiting to get a manager in because he is risk averse, get him queued up before letting Lopetegui go. I don't think that Sullivan is that stupid. We know that we've got a jilted director of football in the club who does like to flap his gums, talk to people. You know, he talks to Romano. There are people at TalkSport that he does talk to. We know that Sullivan talks to Jim White, but was it Crooksey, wasn't it, that released that story? And we do believe that it's Tim Steidten that does talk to him. So it would have come from Tim Steidten, and look, it's going to be true. They will have made that decision to move Lopetegui on, but this has caused all sorts of issues now with the prospective managers that we've got coming in that we've taken far too long to bring in. Ultimately, if this all falls through, this is down to Sullivan again because we could have had Potter a few weeks ago. It could have been done, dusted. No problem. Done. He agreed. He wanted a longer term deal. They squeezed it so that it was down. This was around about the time, I think it was after Leicester with a crisis meeting. He ended up accepting the 6-month contract. We could have signed him there and then. We didn't. We've dragged it out. He's dragged these heels. And we've got to the stage where he's thinking about it. He's probably looking at the situation. As I said earlier on, alarm bells are probably ringing. If he's got a brain in his head, they would be, because he's probably thinking, hang on, well, he's been there at Chelsea. He'll be thinking, Jesus Christ. And also being party to this, because it's like a public embarrassment for everyone concerned now. So I'm assuming you have got like the goalkeepers union. You probably got the managers union as well. So although they do try and get each other's jobs, there's codes of conduct that they will all follow. They probably, everyone connected with this probably feels very, very dirty now. Lopetegui won't be rubbing his hands together. This will be probably the worst experience that he's ever had. He has to go, more so now than ever, because he's not just because he's a crap manager, because I maintain that, but because the environment that's been created there now for a guy that already was struggling to control his group of players is now impossible. It's going to be impossible for him. He's got to go. He can't get the Aston Villa game on Friday. They will have to remove him, even if they don't have another manager in charge, and put a caretaker team in. And I'd be all in favour of that. Whether or not they will or not, I don't know. But they probably won't. This is the thing. They probably won't. Sullivan will go, well, we've got the manager in for now. Just make him manager. He's got no idea. He's got no people skills, that man. He really hasn't. You know, doing what they're doing to Lopetegui today after all of that news is broken, to make him come in and take training, which he has done today, is so cruel. That is beyond fucking cruel. A complete lack of class. And everyone connected with West Ham, we've grown tired of it. We have. And this is just further clarification that man has to leave this club, because nothing is going to change. If Potter comes in, if Ashworth comes in and replaces Tim Steidten, nothing will change with that guy running this club. Because if you get a manager in and a director of football that come in and want to start doing things properly, he'll find another way to fuck it up by getting involved with transfers and wanting to throw his own people in there. You know, the minute things start going well, he gets carried away and he starts trying to... I don't think he would do it on purpose, but the guy can't stay hands off. I think the only time you see Sullivan disappear, 9 times out of 10, is when shit hits the fan. It's not my fault. It's everyone else's fault. It's Tim's fault. It's Lopetegui's fault. It's not me. It is you. You're the one that hired Lopetegui. You were the one that hired Tim Steidten. So, not many of us knew anything about Tim Steidten. We was all excited by the new model, the director of football model, and the Leverkusen project that Tim was very much part of. How much part of it, we don't know. We haven't really got a clue. But we were all excited by that because we were fed up with the way that Sullivan wastes club money. So we thought, yes, this is a step in the right direction. So Sullivan can't blame this man because Sullivan interviewed him and he employed him. Therefore, Tim is failing. It's either because he's shit or it's because Sullivan has hamstrung him and made it impossible for him to do his job. Either way, that failure is on Sullivan. Lopetegui was not the manager that his director of football that he hired wanted to work with, because he wanted to employ a different philosophy of football in the club, which is what he was working towards with his recruitment. Again, that's down to Sullivan. You know, Lopetegui failing, I don't think Steidten has helped him, because ultimately I do also think, playing devil's advocate, that a director of football's primary job should be to get the manager that you've got the tools that he needs to do the best job that he can possibly do. Do I think that Steidten's done that? Probably not. The rumour is as well is that that relationship is completely dead between Steidten and Moyes now. So I listened to, like I said, the More Than Just a podcast, and apparently the rumour is that Steidten has been caught stirring the pot with senior players. Probably he's senior players that he's brought in, that he's built up relationships with. So Lopetegui must have some form of proof, because he managed to get Steidten removed from training. So he's basically been kicked from training in the same way that Moyes had him kicked from training. He doesn't work with these guys. He seems to work against them. So I think for the health of the club and for the removal of this embarrassing situation that just keeps on recycling itself, I think Steidten's got to go as well. I'm not saying that's got to be the end of the director of football exercise, because no, I don't want that. You know, just because you've had one failure, it doesn't mean that you can't go again. But this does look to be a bit of a failure, the more you hear. And you have got to be careful with the way that because when Sullivan wants to sort of paint someone in a bad light, people will start coming out like Sean and leaking stories like that to turn people like me against them. So we do get manipulated, but you've only got to look at it really. You have, as two managers now that he's not managed to get on with. The recruitment it's not been good. It hasn't been good. That was not 150 million well spent. Like I said, there was 80 million spent on two centre-backs, and when you look at Nottingham Forest going out there spending 12 million on Milinkovic, it's shocking. Absolutely shocking business. 27 million on Fulkrug, who isn't an absolute duffer of a player. He looks like he's improving, but that was a dead transfer. Even if he does well when he kicks on and gets us 10 goals, it's a waste of money. For a club like us that are burning money for fun, and we have been for years, making losses on players, we've only been saved by the Declan Rice deal, and I think they're hoping for similar in terms of return with the Kudus deal as well. And this is the thing. So if you're Graham Potter and you're looking at West Ham, because he'll have clever people around him advising him on, I suppose, the trajectory of West Ham. You know how much money is there to spend. What do you think you'll be able to do with them? What's the board like? Do you think that they'll give you control? He'll probably look at the academy, which will be a massive tick box for him because he does like working with youth players. But ultimately, I think he may look at Everton as a little bit more of a sleeping giant ready to be woken up, because they've been sleeping now for years. They've got new owners, the new stadium. So if they do maintain their Premier League status this year, they'll probably push on next year if they get the right man in. Whereas if you look at West Ham, I'm sorry to say, we've been on a rapid decline since Prague. Before Prague, by the way, because we almost got relegated in that year. So it's not since Prague. You know, Prague was 18 months ago. But that calendar year, not the calendar year, that season in the Premier League was dreadful. We only avoided relegation by beating Fulham, and that was a scrappy goal. We didn't deserve to beat them. So we've been awful and on the slide, on the decline for 2.5 years in the Premier League. It's worrying, the way that we've and everyone's party to it. David Moyes massively. When I say that is because how badly our money has been spent. By the time that he left, this is true. This isn't me pulling punches at David Moyes. The facts are simple. By the time David Moyes had finished his 4-year project, we had the oldest and the smallest squad officially in the Premier League, which required virtually a complete rebuild. We had to go out and get 9 new players the summer after he left. That was after a $500 million spend in 4 years. A complete failure if you're looking at it from a business project building perspective. We were left with fuck all. Nothing. And then Lopetegui's come in with Tim and Sullivan, and they've collectively come together to try and recover this situation, and they haven't managed it. And the decline that we've suffered over the past few years, we're continuing. So if you are Potter and you are Fonseca looking at this situation, you'll probably look at the players that we've got, some of them at the moment. You'll look at Bowen, you'll look at Kudus, you'll look at Somerville, you look at Paqueta, Alvarez. There are a lot of players there. But the trouble is that the vast majority of those players that I mentioned, Bowen aside, all want out. They all want to be playing in the elite part of the league. They want to be playing in European competition. So it's going to be very difficult for a man that comes in and assesses his squad and looks at it and goes, yeah, I can work with that. But hang on a minute. They all want to go. The club have basically come out and said via Sean now that we've got to sell to buy. So whoever does come in, be that Potter or Fonseca, they're going to have to sell one of these key assets in order to rebuild. Are they going to have any say in that, in how the money gets spent? I don't know. If you look at news today about a striker that we're linked with, do you remember Arthur Cabral, the Brazilian? Floated about all over the place. I'm sure he played for Basel, but now he's in Benfica. He's all right. But he's probably the most un-Brazilian you're ever going to see in terms of a striker and the way that he plays. It's just a bit of a bulldozer, you know. He might be good. But he ain't great. So to go from Duran to Arthur Cabral, I mean, that is going to be one underwhelming collection of attackers to have him, Fulkrug, Ings, and, bless him, Antonio when Antonio comes back. When you look at Villa, they've got Watkins and they've got Duran. It's an absolute joke. It's a joke. And I insist that we are on a decline because everybody else around us, what dictates that is that everybody else around us is on the ascent, apart from a couple of clubs that are having their usual blip, Tottenham and Man United, but they'll get back at some point. But the clubs that I'm talking about are Fulham's, Brentford's, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, Newcastle, teams that we were better than or above a few years ago. They've now surpassed us. They've left us behind. They're well into their projects. You know, I feel a little bit like we've got to start from scratch. Now, it isn't all doom and gloom. We know that we've got a lot of youth players in our setup. There's players like Freddie Potts that are out there absolutely smashing it in the Championship. You know, he'll come back next season, give us a bit of identity. We know that we've got George Urphy. We know that we've got Alford. We know that we've got Scholes, Casey, all these players. So there is hope for the future. And I think we're lucky that we've got these players as well, because I don't think we're going to be able to spend our way out of this like we've been trying to do in the past few windows. I don't think, when you look at the figures, I don't think we're going to be able to go out and spend the same level of money that we've been spending for the past few years, because I think a lot of that has been facilitated by Europe. So maybe the days of spending 50, 60 million on one player, maybe they've gone for now. Now, that alone is unacceptable because it all falls into what I was talking about before with David Sullivan. This wasn't supposed to happen, Dave. We left Upton Park to not be this team, to not be mediocre, to not be a team that kind of are fighting around the middle. We could have done that at Upton Park. That's not what we traded our heritage for. That's not why we agreed to come to this place. It's not acceptable. You've completely fucked this up. You do need to go. The first thing that we do need to do, obviously, is we need to resolve this managerial issue, because if we don't, we're going to get relegated. So you need to somehow resolve that. And the whispers of Steve Cooper, David Moyes, people like that, if anything like that happens, you're going to kill this club. The fan base will be dead. There'll be a handful of people that are over the moon if David Moyes comes back. The vast majority are going to be mortified, absolutely mortified, and you'll be back to shit football. You won't be getting many tourists then, will you? When you haven't got your Paquetas and you haven't got your Kuduses and you haven't got the fairy dust, which go out and attract these people. Good luck attracting tourists. You won't. You're driving out your core fan base. You're going to end up with a big empty stadium. That will happen eventually. You're testing everybody's resolve here, and it's wearing thin. Even this you couldn't do properly. Sack a manager. You had a good manager lined up. You should have been grateful for that opportunity in our current situation, that maybe now looking at it, that Potter would come in, because I don't think we're a gift to anyone. And he's not my choice. I've already said this, but I'm accepting now of the situation that we're in, and it ain't good. We're not in a good situation. So I think we should be grateful to a degree that somebody like that will come in and accept the job, or at least I thought he was. You know, it could turn out that he has gone, do you know what? I can't do it. You know, I'd rather go elsewhere, hang on for the Tottenham job, or you know, more likely go to Everton. And then you got to look to Fonseca. I don't know too much about Fonseca. I know he plays a decent brand of football. I know that he failed in his last role. I know that he hasn't won much in his career, and he's been managing for a while. I know that he's a Barry Silkman manager as well, and Barry's been trying to get him in here for some time. So I don't know. A lot of people wanted Fonseca in the summer before he went to Milan. So yeah, look, I don't know. It's a shit situation. I'm very deflated. That feeling of euphoria that I had yesterday has completely gone. It's evaporated. I'm left feeling ashamed now. Just by the way that they're acting, and it's going to take the tinge off of it now. You know, if no one's going to be excited when the news gets unveiled now that Lopetegui's been sacked and Potter's in. It's almost taken the shine off of what should have been. You know, we should be celebrating. I mean, we will get behind Potter. We will. That was a brilliant video that John did earlier on, and the points that he made were brilliant and valid. You know, but what I'm trying to say is, we can't enjoy anything at West Ham without Sullivan fucking ruining it. It's frustrating. Yeah. We can't even sack someone properly. Madness. So look, at the moment, there is no update anyway. You know this. You're all following the same news as me. Nothing's changing. Hopefully it's changed by the time I release this video. We'll see. You know, 5 o'clock. Maybe they're going to sack him at 5. I'm not going to hold my breath, though. We'll see. Speak to you all soon. Come on, your ones.